Hi everyone, Petrik here. So today's video will be a book haul video, and the last book haul video I did on this channel was last September, so it's almost a year. As I mentioned on that video, I rarely do book haul now because almost all the books that I read are on my Kindle. It's through digital, even though reading physical books are actually my number one preference of format, but still, books are expensive and spaces are limited. And for today, I want to show you all the books that I bought within this year so far and all the books that I received from my co-bloggers, friends, and my fiance within this year so far. I bought in total 8 books so far, and I received in total 15 books. And I'm not so sure whether you guys actually love watching book haul videos or not. If you do love watching book haul videos, I think I will start to include all the books that I receive from publisher and authors as well. I'm excluding them on this video for now because there are quite a lot of them, and I think if there's interest, I will do them on another video. So yeah, let's start from the books that I bought first. First, I bought Age of Legend, and then Age of Death, and then Age of Empire. This is book 4, book 5, and book 6 of The Legends of the First Empire by Michael J. Sullivan. Absolutely gorgeous cover art, look at them. They're so colorful and they're done by one of my favorite cover artists, Mark Simonetti. I haven't finished reading this series yet. I've read only the first book, Age of Myth, and I'm really hoping I can finish this entire series next year. And the next series that I bought is Rift War Empire Trilogy, written by Raymond E. Weiss and Jenny Wirtz. The first book is Daughter of the Empire, the second book is Servant of the Empire, and then the third book is Mistress of the Empire. I'm really hoping that this is better than the first trilogy, which is Rift War Saga. I've read The Magician, and I must say that I'm quite disappointed at it. To those of you who have mentioned on my comment section that Rift War Saga will be outdated for me, well, you're not wrong. It is. It is outdated for me, but I'm really hoping that this one will be much better than the first trilogy. This is one of my priority trilogy to start and finish within this year, and I'm really hoping that this one will be amazing. Then the next book that I bought is Chopin's hardcover. This one is the US edition. I already own the UK paperback edition, and I don't usually buy both US and UK edition because well, as I said earlier, spaces are limited and they're expensive. But I saw this one for $5 and I think it's quite rare now. So yeah, I grabbed it. This cover art is done by Greg Ruth, and I really love how the typography and the cover art matches with each other. Look, they really play to each other's strength. And finally, the last physical book that I bought within this year so far, it is a manhwa. It is called Solo Leveling. Absolutely amazing series. I have read season 1 of this manhwa. It is one of the best manhwa that I've read so far. I don't collect manga or graphic novels in physical format anymore because they're very expensive. Because considering how fast it is to read them, I think they're too expensive, and well, again, as I said, spaces are limited. But I have to make an exception for this. It's so beautiful, seriously. If you haven't read this manhwa, get it. Manhwa quite rarely appear in physical format, and I think this is a good thing that this finally appeared in physical format. I'm definitely going to collect all of them. There are 2 other books that I pre-ordered. They are The Veiled Throne, the 3rd book in the Dandelion Dynasty by Ken Liu, and the other one is The Burning God by R.F. Kuang, the paperback edition, because I'm collecting the series in the UK paperback edition. And that's all the books that I bought within this year so far. I must say that I'm doing pretty well with my book ban because it is my intention to actually limit myself from buying physical books for now. My TBR is so overwhelming, and I think the best way to actually read through my physical books is to actually ban myself from buying physical books. So now let's move on to the books that I received as gifts. First, we have Spinning Silver by Naomi Novik. To those of you who know me, to those of you who follow me on Goodreads, I think you will know my feelings on Uprooted. I hated it. But Spinning Silver, I've heard from a lot of people that actually dislike Uprooted. They said that this is worth the read. And actually, I received this one from my friend Mary. She's one of my friends who actually really hated Uprooted but absolutely loved this one. So I have really high hope for this. Elliot Brooks did an amazing video review on this book. She also said that it's much better than Uprooted. So yeah, I have great hope for this one. And the cover art is done by Nico Delort. Amazing cover art and design. Beautiful. Then the next book that I want to show you is Ashes of the Sun by Django Wexler. This is the first book in Burning Blade and Silver Eye trilogy. It is a Star Wars inspired fantasy. I love this one. It is very enjoyable, and I think this is a very accessible book to those who are just starting adult fantasy. Very fast-paced, great relationship, great characters development. And look, this is just so beautiful. This is the UK edition, the Goldsboro edition. It has red spray edges. Beautiful, right? And it also has a red map. It's so beautiful. I received this from one of my co-blogger, Haifa. Thank you so much, Haifa. Then the next book that I received is again from one of my co-bloggers, Eon. Thank you so much, Eon. It is Assassin's Quest Illustrated Edition. Amazing. Robin Hobb is one of my favorite authors of all time, and I really hope they're going to release the illustrated edition of Life Ship Traders and beyond, not just Farseer Trilogy, because as much as I love Robin Hobb's books, Farseer Trilogy is one of the weakest series by her. Even though it's pretty good, this one isn't though. All the illustrated editions are so beautiful. They have interior artworks done by Magali Villeneuve, one of my favorite artists, and this is just one of them in a very non-spoiler way. Look, so beautiful, right? Then the next 6 books that I received from my friend, it is from my co-blogger again. This one is from TS. TS is known among Novel Notions, my blog. She is known as the fairy godmother because she cannot stop sending us books. She cannot stop. And the first 3 books that I received from her is, the first book is Age of Myth, so beautiful. And then the second book is Age of Sword. And finally, the third book is Age of War. As I said earlier, I've read only the first book, and I'm hoping to continue with this one next year. And then I also received this graphic novel from her. It is The Boy, the Mole, the Fox, and the Horse by Charlie Mackesy. Very wholesome book. If you haven't read this one, I think this one can be read by people of all ages. And it contains a lot of great artworks and quotes that's very applicable to our lives. So, for example, is this one. Can you see it? Yeah. One of our greatest freedom is how we react to things. And then I also received Hollow Empire from her. This is the second book in Poison Wars duology by Sam Hawk. Gorgeous cover art. It is one of my favorite books of last year. Very underrated. Very underrated series. If you haven't read this series, I highly recommend it. The cover art is done by Greg Ruth. Amazing cover art. Greg Ruth is also the one who did the cover art to Sharp End's US edition that I showed you earlier. And finally, the last book that I received from TS so far this year is The Fall of Gondolin by J.R.R. Tolkien. It is a gorgeous book. Look at the cover art, and it has interior artworks done by Alan Lee. I think Alan Lee, there is something about his artwork that is so fitting to Tolkien's writing. Look at it. This is just one of them because, well, I'm afraid of breaking the spine. Okay, fine, here's another one. This one is Glorfindel and Balrog. And speaking of J.R.R. Tolkien, I received this box set from one of my co-bloggers, Celeste. Look at it. This is so beautiful. I finally have my own copies of The Lord of the Rings. I think this is a new box set with a cover art done by Johan Egerkrans. And I'm going to show the cover art to you now. This is the Fellowship of the Ring, and then this is the second volume, The Two Towers, and finally The Return of the King. It is a bit unfortunate that this edition doesn't have the interior artworks by Alan Lee, but you know what, I'll take it, because these cover arts look amazing. And now we move on to the final section, which are the 3 books that I received from my fiancé so far. The first one is Fireman by Joe Hill. I haven't read anything by Joe Hill except Lock and Key graphic novels, and I'm hoping that I'm going to love this one even more than Stephen King's books. And then I received a standalone novel called To Ride Hell's Chasm by Jenny Wirtz again. And I plan to read this one after I'm done with reading Reform Empire Trilogy. And then, if I love Reform Empire Trilogy and I love this one, I'm going to dive into her Wars of Light and Shadow series. And finally, the last book that I want to show you today, it is The Trouble with Peace by Joe Abercrombie. This is the second book in the Age of Madness trilogy. This is the UK edition. As I said earlier in the beginning of this video, I don't usually collect both US and UK edition. But you know what, I'm going to have to make an exception for the Age of Madness trilogy because I really love the cover art of both US and UK edition of this series. They're beautiful, and Joe Abercrombie is one of my favorite authors of all time. He is the best grimdark fantasy writer in my opinion. I cannot wait for the Wisdom of Crowds, and yes, I'm going to get both US and UK edition of the Wisdom of Crowds. So that's pretty much it for the past 5 months. I have accumulated 23 books, 8 that I bought, and 15 that I received from my co-bloggers and my fiancé. But this book haul video doesn't include the books that I received from authors and publishers. The reason behind this is so far, within this year, I have received more than 30 physical books from authors and publishers, so they have to be in another video if I want to showcase them. So yeah, please let me know whether you want me to show you all the books that I received from publishers and authors so far or not. That's pretty much it for me today. Please let me know what do you think of my book haul this year so far. As always, thank you so much for watching and thank you for your support. Bye bye.